Hello YouTube, I hope you've watched the videos already of using that putty epoxy. We're going to put it around here between the knob and that washer. That is really heavy paper. That's that almost cardboard paper. It is very hard to roll that small. I had my fingernails digging in and I mean it's stiff stuff. It's very hard to roll. And that hole probably goes in a little over half an inch. We're going to put that epoxy on here first, okay? Make it even with the washer. Then we will coat it with some liquid epoxy. Because we want a little bit bigger up in here. Then we'll smooth it down. We really can't lathe it. We did have my drill and got that down to that shape. Plus with my little drum sander, so it's not going to be perfect. It'd be almost like if you hand carved it. If you really look at it when I'm done, it's probably going to wobble when you spin it. Say you had a shaft in here and you spun it on the camera, how I showed up. But here we go. Let's get that part done. I hope you've seen the videos on this stuff already, and you'll see what these knobs look like before I took the big part off. I just kept grinding it away. So let's get to work. Okay, we are back. It's not cured all the way. Now this isn't going to be that strong because it's not really bonded that. It's just up against it. The epoxy cover will make it stronger. So, like the back off. We're never going to try to drill that paper out till this thing is really coated, you know, super cured. This cured pretty fast. Always have something to do with your extra. Sometime I'll show you how I made this. I just had it in my fingers, I'd flatten on it. I had water on the table. It was curing with water on it. It was in a puddle of water. Hear that? I like playing with this stuff. And then I end up flattening it between an aluminum plate and the table. So it's pretty flat. So I made some kind of token out of this. Something for a necklace. You know, you could mill that out and put a coin in there. And then clear coat over it, you know, glued in there, so you can make some kind of necklace. It's just whatever thickness look good. I didn't want it big as a quarter. I do not know how big around it is. Let's just measure it. Well, it's close to 1 inch. I'm off how far? Let's go down here and get to a different scale. Is not to confuse us. I guess about a 1/16 of an inch. Less than an inch. I'm pretty good at guessing stuff like that. About an inch. This is not as hard yet. But I did peel the washer off there in the hot glue. Okay, we're going to let this cure, and then we're going to coat it with epoxy. I thought about trying to add more to it, but I want this tapered, so we're going to have to put a lot of epoxy up on this end, and that stuff is hard to work with, your liquid, because it's dripping all over. I probably played with this 7-10 minutes before it started getting hard, and you could still stick your fingernail in it. Even this one. But the liquid, it's hard to play with. I'm going to have to probably put it in a couple different layers. We're just going to make another thing. And this stuff is painted on there so thin. I don't know if you can even think about it while looking at it. See where it's scratched up? It is so thin painted on here, it sands off super fast. This is kind of stinky, weird stuff right here. It is a type of a plaster. It almost reminds me of that junky wood putty stuff I was working with. Only with more stink to it. So, it's not a plastic. It's more like a molded plaster junk. Cheap curtain knob. It came with the rods. I'm sure you might be able to find these at a big box store. You know, your home supply. You might be able to find just these cheap knobs. Banging on something in the store, and it'll tell you what it's made of. Okay, break time. We're taking too long here. Okay, it's still curing. I could not get it to go down where I wanted to, the tape, to get a lot there, because it started running into here. What a mess. And here's my gloves, what they look like. Here's one of my latest tools I use for spreading epoxy. Part of a paint stick. Now you stir your gallon of paint, see that curve? You look at a paint stick, you'll see that in there. And the more resin you get in here, the harder this will get. You could bend this when I first made it, but you look real close, bottom left corner, that is epoxy because it kind of shredded the wood when I was scraping making it. So, it's like it's self-healing. Every time you put epoxy on it, it'll fill in there and make it stronger. But you could bend that before, but what a mess. Look at it all over there. I finally sprayed my hands down with water. I grabbed my thing real quick and I sprayed some water on my gloves, my left hand, so I could hang on it without sticking so bad. So I wanted a lot down here to taper that, but I just don't want to add any more to it. I don't want to try to add anything on top. We're just going to sand this real good and make what it makes out of it. I mean, we could taper this knob back and don't have to be around. But that's a lot of work, and I don't want to try to stick this in a lathe. Even if I had a shaft in there, you're talking about you could have a catastrophe there. You could just fly apart or something, but it should be easy to drill the paper out. There you go. We'll take a break, and we'll come back after it's all sanded and ground, and then this video will be done. Okay, we're going to call this good for this video. Beware, do not put paper in there. I almost never got it out. Unless it fits the rod you're using. So, say that's what you use for rod, make sure you wrap it around there. I was just maybe finding a little piece of plastic pipe or something to use. Because I almost never got the paper out. See how big it had to do it to get the paper out? I just keep drilling and drilling and wallering it, but this is pretty weak. That is the two-part PC putty. That's not the liquid stuff. So I'm going to coat that with a thin coat of regular epoxy. So it is kind of weak and it has been drying all day. See how it's crumbly? So the stuff isn't super strong. So I'm going to coat it just like this is all coated. I decided to make kind of a design that's kind of crude, but it looks like it's hand carved. So there you go. That's enough for this video. We're out of here. Look for all the pictures I took doing this.